everyone, and welcome back to Exposing SMG. I watched Prince Harry's CBS 60 Minutes interview with Anderson Cooper, so you don't have to. And here's the recap of the interview, including the most bizarre things that Harry said. Before we begin, be sure to like and subscribe for more Meghan and Harry content, check out our playlist on the two disgraced royals, and let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. The interview starts with a little preview where Harry says, "I am going to speak truth to you," which is pretty ironic, coming from a well-known pathological liar. I just did 5 videos on episodes 1 through 5 of their Netflix series where in total I counted 27 lies. There's a lot more coming as I get up episode 6, so nothing like a little irony to start the interview. Anderson Cooper did fairly better than Oprah as an interviewer. He definitely asked better questions, as you will see from this video, and he was less entertaining of the shenanigans. Oprah was very dramatic and like, "What? Were you silenced?" Meanwhile, Anderson Cooper is like, "How is your family supposed to trust you after all you've done?" So I personally enjoyed him as an interviewer. He wasn't as direct with Harry as I'm sure we'd all be if we were interviewing him, but he did a decent job. Let me know what you think if you watched the interview. So Anderson Cooper reads him an excerpt from his memoir, or memoir as I like to call it, and he reads the part where Harry recalls looking at his brother, Prince William, back in 2021 and noticing how his balding was more advanced than his, how he finds it alarming, and how his resemblance to their mother, the late Princess Diana, has faded. And as Anderson reads the balding part, Harry smirks, which that in itself shows us he is kinda hateful and jealous when it comes to his brother. There is no other way to interpret that line. I am going to talk more about this excerpt as a whole in my upcoming videos covering Spare, but honestly, it's just a mean thing to say. To which Anderson is like,
"It's pretty cutting."
Harry then says,
"I don't see it as cutting at all."
What?
None of anything that I've written and anything I've included is ever intended to hurt my family, but it does give a full picture.
This is how I know that Harry has to either be delusional or sarcastic on purpose, because if I make fun of someone's appearance, or recall a private fight, or air out private family secrets, or dirty laundry, or call my stepmother dangerous, I'm sure that all falls under the category of hurting someone. There is no way for the royal family to read this book where he paints his former bestie Kate Middleton in a light where she took William away from him, which is ironic coming from the man who's playing puppet to his American wife. One would only expect someone to be offended. He then defends Meghan Markle and says that she didn't come in between him and his brother, considering that the past 6 years have been hard for him and William.
Sure, Jan.
And yet 2023 minus 6 or 2022 minus 6 gives us either 2017 or 2016, the year he got engaged to Meghan or started dating her. So nonetheless, no matter how he wants to fix Meghan's PR rep, the fact that he states that him and William distanced as she came into the picture is all we need to know. And you can't even blame distancing on people getting into relationships, because William and Catherine were in a relationship together and Harry loved third-wheeling with them and looking at Catherine with googly eyes. So however he tries to paint it, the timeline shows that him and his brother were besties, distanced when Meghan, the common denominator, was in the picture. He then recalls some story of when he and William went to high school together, and that's when their
Sibling rivalry
started, because William supposedly told him, "Don't speak to me," in high school, which Harry says hurt his feelings a lot. Now, anyone who has brothers or has been around siblings knows that it's almost a rite of passage for the older sibling, who's merely just a teenager at that point, to think that they're the cooler older sibling, or "don't talk to me in school, we don't know each other" type of dynamic. So for Harry to be 38 years old and try to hold, 15-year-old William accountable for a silly comment? If we're holding a teenager to a mindless comment in high school, what should we do about Harry, who admitted to taking several hard drugs at 20? It just seems mundane for him to pretend like he and William's relationship was damaged in high school. Meanwhile, he's been on candid camera saying how much William helps him and has been there for him and has been the ideal older sibling for him. And for him to resort their fallout to some silly high school drama is a little heartbreaking. Harry then spends a lot of time talking about his mother Diana and how her death greatly affected him. And honestly, I feel for him, I really do, but grief, especially after 20 years, is not an excuse for his actions, especially when he's hurting people who have gone through the same thing. He talks about the walkabout they did before Diana's funeral and how he felt guilty because people were showing more emotion than he and William showed, and maybe saw even more emotion than he felt. He talks about taking the flowers from the crowd and how putting it down made him feel like the middleman for their grief, which is something that stood out for him. It's obvious now that being that young and walking in public behind his mother's coffin had some serious effects on him. It's something that he has been open about for years, saying in 2017 that his mother had just died and I had to walk a long way behind her coffin, surrounded by thousands of people watching me while millions more did on television, Harry told Newsweek magazine in an interview published in July 2017. I don't think any child should be asked to do that under any circumstances. I don't think it would happen today. The only issue I raise with Harry here is that he constantly talks about this, and how can you move forward if you don't heal behind closed doors? He talks about this in front of thousands and millions on TV, but what good is that gonna do for him if he continues to do the same thing on TV for millions? In 2017, when the BBC did a documentary for the 20th anniversary of Diana's death, both William and Harry spoke, and Harry credited William with encouraging him to seek mental health support to help him deal with his anger and pain multiple times. So I don't like how he is painting William as a villain during this interview and his book just because Meghan came along and rewrote history through her lens. Homegirl probably memorized what Harry was saying on TV years ago, considering her royal family fascination. Harry then talks about what he wrote in Spare, which is that he was in denial about Diana's death and he thought that she had just disappeared. And every day he would hold hope that today would be the day that she would call him and tell him she's alive. He said that William also believed that, which again is such a heartbreaking thing to go through, and it's even more heartbreaking when he says that he finally believed she was dead when he was 23 years old, and it came only after he asked to see the police report and saw the photos taken, to the point where he wanted to almost recreate her death and see if she would have still died even without the paparazzi following and at the same speed the car was going and how the driver was still drunk. And all this reads to me as someone who is heavily still burdened by his mother's death, the lack of closure, and how easy it is for someone to come along and play on those heartstrings. He talks about how much he hated the British press since he was 12 years old because of her death, so he started drinking a lot to numb the pain, and he did a lot of drugs. He got a therapist 7 years ago. He said he did a lot of psychedelics, which worked for him as medicine because he found clarity while being on drugs, and how he knows his mom would have wanted him to be happy, and that he found happiness with Meghan.
Well, good luck with that.
Is that what he would describe happiness as? Having no contact with his family, throwing his old life away with his friends, his service, his family whom he used to be close to, and resorting to being a trashy reality TV star, being the mouthpiece for his wife? I don't know. Happy people don't often sit in their past pain and blame everyone else around them while insulting their family, and that doesn't sound like happiness to me. On the topic of insulting his family, Anderson reads an excerpt from Spare in which Harry calls Queen Consort Camila the villain who needed to rehabilitate her image. He writes that both he and William asked Charles not to marry Camilla and accused Camilla of starting a campaign in the British press to pave a way for marriage. He then calls her dangerous and says that maybe she'll be less dangerous if she was happy. Anderson questions him and says, "Why are you calling her dangerous?" To which Harry says, was because of her need to rehabilitate her image and because of the connections she forged with the British press. He honestly sounds like someone who's on psychedelics. I get that the affair, the cheating, the scandal with the third person in the marriage was hard, not just on Diana, but on their kids. And I get why a kid would ask his father not to marry the woman who was the reason his parents got divorced. But now, as a 38-year-old man, it says a lot when he's still hurling insults at Camilla for what exactly? Wanting to fix her reputation? Wanting to be on good terms with the press and have connections? Is that not something everyone would want? Is that not what he and Meghan are trying to do? Fix their reputation, as she released a podcast, he released a book, both of them a Netflix series, and an endless list of tell-all interviews? I mean, what do you call that? You can't be a hypocrite. He claims that because of Camilla wanting to fix her reputation and be on good terms with the press, the result were people and bodies left in the street, Harry being one of those bodies. Oh my god, the drama. His reasoning is that Camila and even his father were using Harry and William for better press coverage, and that Camila sacrificed him on her personal PR altar, but doesn't give any sort of examples. And if we're playing the double standard here, I can say that he's sacrificing his dignity, his family relationships for his own PR altar. And I don't know what else to say except that he's unbelievable because sacrificed him? The way Meghan claims on episode 5 of the Netflix soap opera that some crew member took off his hat for her and she felt seen because someone saw her apparent sacrifice?
I have never heard someone say so many wrong things, one after the other, consecutively in a row.
In a world full of real victims, Harry and Meghan will somehow play the Out-Victim Everyone awards. I'm sure that Camila wanted to be on the good side of her lover's kids, especially knowing the pain she caused their mother. I don't take that as a sacrifice on a PR altar. She wasn't giving tell-all interviews like Meghan and Harry are. Interviews full of lies, may I add. And Camila had her own demons, but what are we supposed to do now? She has stayed out of the drama for the past decades, she has dedicated her time to over 90 charities, and out of respect for Diana, she didn't use the Princess of Wales title that was given to her. You can't keep kicking down someone who wants to do and be better. Camila already gets harassed on a daily for the affair, with everyone always physically attacking her looks in comparison to Diana's. I've seen many viral social media posts throughout the years making those comparisons, and trust me, the people are not easy with it. And if it was happening to Meghan, she'd be crying as to why the palace isn't releasing a statement. Harry talked a million times about his family's impression of Meghan, mainly on Netflix, which I covered, where Meghan says that the family wasn't bothered by her being mixed or American, but just because she's an actress, which Harry elaborates some more. He says that Charles liked Meghan, while William was skeptical because she's an American actress. Harry always acts like anything that's done to him or Meghan has a motive and they're victims of everyone else. Meanwhile, the older sibling is always the one you have to impress because they look after the younger sibling. Ask any older sibling if they were skeptical of their younger sibling's partner, and almost always they are going to say yes because they want the best for them. It's such a common human practice that Harry tries to villainize in his victim agenda with Meghan. And William's skepticism was for good reason, as time has proven. Harry then claimed that the royal family reads the tabloids as it's laid out for them at breakfast, and that Charles and William were mad that he put out a statement defending Meghan from the press in November 2016, 8 days after their relationship was confirmed. Now, Tom Bauer investigated this story in his book, and he said that Meghan made Harry put out the statement, writing that Meghan demanded that the statement should reflect the parallel between her potential fate and Diana's, which is something that Harry continues to prove within time because he keeps emphasizing how he's scared that Meghan will have the same fate Diana did. Leaving out one key detail, Meghan never got hounded like Diana, so much so to the point where Meghan organized paparazzi shots and hired a PR firm to keep her in the news. That's how irrelevant she was, and since then, we continuously see Meghan's fascination with being the new Diana or being compared to Diana. They never got hounded to the point where they used fake paparazzi photos to explain this hounding on Netflix. I already made a video on that, so go check it out. Anyway, he says in the interview that Charles and William were mad that he put out a statement because it made them look bad, or that he felt like they didn't do that for his partners. Which, throughout the interview, Harry seems like he's projecting his feelings on them because he talks in such an unsure way. He gives 3 different answers, and honestly, I'm pretty sure they didn't want to put out useless statements comparing the late Princess Diana to an American actress who is staging paparazzi photos like she's been exposed for. Harry keeps claiming that the difference between what Kate and Camilla went through was
The race element.
Sure, the white passing Meghan was suffering lashings from the British press, failing to mention that the cherry-picked articles he keeps focusing on, those 2 or 3, are actually from American journalists. But they're not going to tell us that. Their whole argument is the British press. He also says that he knows Meghan isn't visibly black. So if she isn't visibly black, why are they attacking her? Could it be for valid reasons based on her actions? Oh my god. He then calls the British press
was so bigoted.
which means a person who hates or refuses to accept members of a particular group and dislikes their ideas, traditions, and so on. And that is a very strong thing to say. But wait, it gets worse. He calls himself bigoted.
Hell, I was probably bigoted
To which Anderson Cooper is like, are you calling yourself bigoted?
before the relationship with Meghan.
You think you were bigoted before the relationship with Meghan?
And Harry, who apparently learned the term 3 days ago, says,
I don't know. I don't know.
You're not very pretty, and you're not very bright.
oh yes, the white passing actress who cut off her entire black family and doesn't have any black friends and dates only white men was the racial wake-up call Harry needed. Again, it just sounds like she's talking through him with her savior complex. She saved him from his family, she saved him from drugs, she saved him from being bigoted. This man is in a hole that only God could get him out of. Anderson asked if he tried talking to William and Kate to diffuse the tension and mistrust they had with Meghan, but Harry claims that it didn't go well. Failing to mention that Meghan was bullying Kate's staff, insulting Kate saying she has baby brain, thanks to Harry for confirming in Spare, and so much more. William and Kate's mistrust of Meghan didn't come out of nowhere, but Harry is so delusionally buried in Meghan's own ideologies and beliefs, he can't even see his own, let alone the truth. He then retells his fight with William that he recalls in his book, which I already made a whole video on that, go check it out, but he purposefully leaves out why William confronted him, which is what he wrote in his book, that Meghan was being rude, difficult, and abrasive. Of course, he didn't want to say that on national television, which again, shows us his agenda. Is it just me, or is he slowly stepping back from his book? He gets even more unbelievable as he claims that William was being told certain things from his office and that he had issues with Meghan not based on reality. I just want to know. Does he believe himself? The whole world had issues with Meghan, but oh no, that's not reality. And what? William's office was inventing lies to tell their boss? Can it be that the truth is a simple answer? That Meghan's rude and entitled bullying behavior was the reason why no one could stand her? You can't do things for people to hate you and then wonder why they hate you. And William and Kate obviously not playing along with Meghan is because people like Meghan are people that you can't work with. Anderson then asks him a great question. Why don't you just renounce the titles? And he states to him what the criticism is, which is that he and Meghan keep cashing in on their titles. To which Harry says, and what difference would that make? All the difference. You'd be acting as private citizens, as your own entity, but you can't explain common sense to someone who's living in a victim narrative. Anderson presses him some more and says, one of the criticisms that you've received is that, okay, fine, you want to move to California, you want to step back from the institutional role. Why be so public? Why reveal conversations you've had with your father or with your brother? To which Harry again claimed that he tried to have such conversations privately, but every single time there have been briefings and leakings and planting of stories against me and my wife. So again, every logical question he's asked, he finds a way to shift blame and finds an excuse. What conversations were privately leaked between you and your family? As far as we're aware, they leaked the conversations to the US media, calling up Gayle King and telling her that the conversations were unproductive.
She picked up the phone, she called Harry and Meghan.
The word I was given was that those conversations were not productive.
Does he have any examples of these leakings in the media? Because assumingly, we would know what he's talking about. We'd have a handful of articles of royal correspondents saying the palace is saying XYZ, but we don't. All we have is Harry and Meghan's PR team leaking info to the US media. And this is the definition of gaslighting, blaming someone else for something you do to actively deter away from your actions. Anderson then talks to him about the Jeremy Clarkson column where he made Meghan an analogy to a degrading Game of Thrones scene, and even though Jeremy's column was not okay, Harry complains that the palace didn't put out a statement, and then plagiarizes Martin Luther King's famous quote and says, "Silence is betrayal." First of all, why would the palace make a statement about A, two former royals who stepped down 3 years ago and constantly keep harassing them, being the family, and B, if they're gonna make a statement about this, might as well make a statement about everything. Since when do we expect the palace to make statements about everything, especially ones that are mundane? The palace didn't even reply back to the accusations they've been spewing in the media after Oprah, on Netflix with archetypes. Why would they comment on what some random comedian said? Why don't they comment on the comedians in the US making fun of the monarchy, the Queen, Charles, Philip's death, the Queen's death, and everyone else while they're at it? Why don't they comment on every social media troll, since the palace apparently took up complaining about everything as a hobby? Why don't you make a statement, Harry? The lack of accountability and constant whining is insane. From a business perspective, you can't expect an entity to make a comment about everything. The number of rumors high-profile celebrities faces and their PR teams never release a statement is endless. Why? It's child's play. Might as well expect the palace to make statements about bowel movements and about what Prince George had for breakfast if they're making statements about everything. Harry then talks about the Queen's passing at Balmoral and complains that his family was all taking a plane together that had 12 or 14 seats, but no one invited him and Meghan.
It's what she deserves.
Again, this is the issue with people who are constantly behind the trigger and then wonder why no one wants to be with them. You can't constantly be talking your family in the press, make podcasts about it, Netflix specials, go on Oprah and call your family racist, which we will talk about considering Harry's backtracking on that, and then wonder, oh no, why does no one like us? Why don't they want us on the plane with them, especially during such a sad moment? Make it make sense. You can't shoot venom on national television and still want people to welcome you in with open arms. You are treated how you treat them. He then blames that on the reason why he got to his grandmother after she died, to which he says he spent time alone with her in her bedroom. But a source of mine tells me that he reportedly had a big fight with Meghan about her not being invited to Balmoral, and that's why he missed saying goodbye. I'll link my article on that, so go check out the tea spill after this video. We'll also discuss Balmoral and the Queen's passing more in a different spare video because Harry whines about Meghan not being invited to that personal moment. He ends the interview by saying that he hasn't spoken to William or Charles in a long time, but he looks forward to finding peace with them and believes that their relationship can be healed and that the ball is in their court, failing to mention that his family reached out to him multiple times for him to visit Charles on holiday and before the Queen passed, but both he and Meghan declined several times. So I guess the ball is in your court, Harry. And again, it's such delusional thinking because you can't be behind the trigger and then get mad when your victims don't want to talk to you. Who would want to even speak to you after all you've done, said, and written? To which Anderson presses him and says, what if they say, how can we trust you after all of this? And Harry replies with the same empty reply. Well, they did it first by briefing the press with lies about my wife. Again, no basis, no proof. And instead of debunking anything the press says, he actually confirms all the stories in the book. So is he upset that Meghan was exposed for her true nature? Or is he upset that the palace didn't lie for him? Who knows? And yet, after all of this, he has the audacity to say, I want a relationship with my family. It's all I've ever wanted. Well, you've got a hell of a way of showing it. Calling your father a liar, your brother a balding bully who fights you, your stepmother a dangerous villain. There's absolutely no accountability. What's next? He's gonna hurl insults at William's kids? The interview ends with Anderson saying that they reached out to Buckingham Palace for comment, to which Buckingham Palace said they will only comment if they give them a full report on what is being said on 60 Minutes before it airs, to which CBS was like, no, we don't do that, and voila, no comment. So yeah, that ends the recap of the CBS interview. It was quite boring. I enjoyed how Anderson held him accountable to the degree that he could, and honestly, he looked like he was gonna combust from Harry's delusional answers, so prayers up for Anderson. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to let me know what you think in the comments down below. What do you want us to cover next? Like and subscribe for more, follow us on our social media, and as always, I'll see you next time.